people are increasingly thinking about the colonization of other planets. And not only because the Earth has recently started looking less friendly, but also due to developments in science and technology that are making our fantasies seem like they could really become a reality. More often than not, hopes of moving somewhere like Mars are crumbling due to its great distance from us. A trip that stretches for years is not very inspiring. But what if the position of the planets changed? What if they moved towards one another and collided? Such an event is not entirely fantasy. Don't expect it to happen tomorrow, but a similar collision has already occurred in the history of our planet, in theory. According to one hypothesis, about 4.5 billion years ago, the planet Theia crashed into the Earth, and the fragments from this collision then formed the Moon. But almost everyone knows the story of Theia. What about the collision of the giants? The solar system remembers that too. One version of history states that previously there had been 5 giants instead of 4. One of them eventually suffered some sort of a catastrophe. Its disappearance has helped the Earth survive to this day in the form that we all know it. How, you might ask? Well, don't forget that everything in the solar system is interconnected. Before colliding with this mysterious space object, Jupiter was further from the Sun and closer to the other giants. At the time, the rocky planets of the Earth group didn't yet exist as such. They were just starting to form. If we take into account other planetary systems, our solar system at that time should have had many more planets than we have now. But now they're absent, as well as the 5th giant, which Jupiter most likely successfully pushed out when it decided to move closer to the Sun. To change the position of a planet, another one doesn't have to literally collide with it. It's enough to be in close proximity. Be that as it may, the space between the objects in the solar system and the available material for creating the planets increased, which allowed for life to calmly arise on the Earth. All of these events happened more than 4 billion years ago, when the solar system was just in its infancy, and everything in it was quite unstable. But what about similar events that happened relatively recently? In 2010, scientists discovered a powerful collision in the planetary system BD plus 20307. This is located 300 light-years from the Earth in the constellation Aries. If any life forms existed on these planets, they were destroyed at the time of the collision. The number of dust particles that ascended into space was 1,000,000 times greater than the cloud of dust orbiting our solar system today. Actually, it was only from this cloud that scientists were able to determine that this collision occurred at all. In the constellation Pavo, there was a similar brawl. An object the size of our moon crashed into a planet similar to Mercury. This is evidenced by the remains of substances similar to lava, as well as gaseous silicon dioxide. The analysis confirmed that the planets really crashed into each other at a tremendous speed. Because of this, olivine and pyroxene were melted into silicon dioxide. For such an event to happen to our planet, something would need to happen that could change the dynamics of the solar system. Fortunately, space objects rotate along clearly defined paths. Everything is so accurate that you can predict their location at any future moment in time. It's impossible to change anything. But what if a little chaos was brought into this perfect order? To see the result of such an event, Jacques Lescar and Michael Gastineau from the Paris Observatory virtually simulated the butterfly effect on our solar system. According to this principle, the flapping of a butterfly's wings on one side of the planet could, for example, later cause a typhoon on the opposite side of the planet. Scientists minimally changed various indicators in computer simulations so that it could disable the existing system. In 99% of all cases, nothing tragic would happen because breaking the solar system isn't so easy. But that 1% remains, in which everything could be destroyed. The most dangerous point, oddly enough, is Mercury. This planet of the solar system has the smallest mass, which means that Mercury is the easiest to destabilize. And this means much more than it might seem at first glance. Scientists have proven that it's the interaction with Jupiter that makes the orbit of Mercury more elongated. It would seem that there's a huge distance between them. So how can these planets even influence each other? Between Jupiter and Mercury, there's a special orbital resonance. Right now, it's not strong, But in 3 to 4 billion years, everything will be different, and Mercury will have changed its orbit. Such an event could unbalance all of the orbits in the solar system. This primarily concerns Venus, Mars, and Earth. In one of the simulated scenarios, a change in the orbit of Mercury caused a change in the orbit of Mars, which generally destroyed all stability in the inner solar system. As a result, for example, Earth could collide with Venus. And these two, I remind you, are about the same size. Such an interplanetary accident would destroy not only all life, but also the planets themselves. They would simply be obliterated into gazillions of small pieces. While it's true that gravity would someday be able to collect this matter back together again, this would happen in a chaotic manner, and the solar system would never be the same. In fact, humanity would become aware of an approaching planet much earlier than the collision itself. And not only because astronomers and NASA employees would report it, but it would be possible to see the approaching planet without special equipment. First, about a few weeks before the fateful event, the cosmic body would show itself, and it would seem to us that there were 2 moons in the sky at night. It would be hard not to notice. Then, we would feel its gravitational impact on Earth. The tides would become 8 times stronger, and as a result, floods would cover the coastlines of the continents. This would happen all around the world, so escaping this would be quite problematic. About 28 hours before the collision, the mutual gravity of the planets would begin to accelerate their convergence. The planets would become attracted to each other. Gigantic tsunamis would travel across the oceans, the scale of which we've never seen on Earth. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other apocalyptic events would emerge. The weather would simply go crazy. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and hurricanes would be so powerful that it would become almost impossible to survive in such conditions. The atmospheres of the 2 planets would begin to shrink, glowing brightly. Then, strong winds and everything else would be replaced by an unbearable heat. The tsunamis, at this point, would most likely stop because all the liquid would have evaporated due to the high temperature. Without liquid, the surface of our planet would turn into red-hot magma. Can you guess why no one has yet made a large-budget disaster film with this plot? Because such films usually have survivors. At this stage of the collision of the 2 planets, there would be none. When the other planet came in contact with the Earth's surface, the friction that appeared would slow down or stop the rotation of both cosmic bodies. The hard rocks of our planet would melt and rise up, forming giant firewalls. A shockwave would cover the Earth in just 20 minutes. The already hot core of our planet would heat up even more due to the collision, which would increase the temperature of the Earth from the inside. As a result, what was once the Earth would turn into an array of stones randomly scattered across space. Or over time, a completely different new planet would form from the remnants of our home. What would that be like? You can only fantasize. A similar scenario would likely unfold if all the planets in the universe collided. Only the blast power and lighting effects would differ, but the result, in general, we can already predict. But is it worth expecting such events in the future? It seems to me it's unlikely. But who knows what reality has in store for us? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And click on the bell to receive notifications of new, interesting videos that are waiting for you ahead.